Christ. We'll get started in just a second. Let me see. Let me play some music right quick. Let me play something right quick. You already know. And if you tuned in, hold on. I'm trying to slap something right quick. Hold on. Give me a second, y'all. Damn. Might not be able to play that on.
This ain't a star dumb, a gun down with die. Yeah, Easy told the truth and got ostracized. Not one person in the Bible had on a yarmulke. We were slaves in America like we was in Egypt. Y'all don't even fit the curses in the Torah neither. Y'all was blind to the truth. I had to make it clear how Jerusalem, your land, your people came from Europe. That was 1947. Your menorah got 9 sticks. It's really only 7. Yeah, it's us against the world. Armageddon. This what happened when you inherit lies from your ancestors. Y'all the synagogue of Satan with them black hats. Your whole nation sitting ducks, Aflacs, bunch of thieves and culture vultures ain't nothing kosher. To tell the truth, you vagabonds don't have a culture. Macedonia, Alexander, and Philip, you a convert, so tell me, how the fuck is you Israel? That don't make you the people just cause you live there. Why my people can't hate your people like y'all hate Hitler? All the prophets was black and was called nigga. Y'all don't even fit the description that's in the scriptures. Abraham, all the way down to Jacob, we the real Jews. Y'all don't study Christ, y'all follow the Talmud. Keep it real, yeah, let's keep it real. Cold hard truth, it give you chills. Say y'all Jewish cause y'all ain't really them. About to do them like Hammond, this the feast of Purim. UBK undefeated, this an easy win. We was born fighting, y'all the evil twin. Jacob took hold of his heel, then out came his little red bass and they kosher deals. It's only 12 tribes, y'all trying to make it 13. Esau despised his birthright, the Lord cursed him. He ain't the devil who is, I'm still searching. Ask your rabbi, why he get him babies herpes? I don't know what's worse, that or you claiming that you a Maccabee. I'm about to cancel, everybody try to cancel ye. I ain't afraid to speak, that's what I do. They riding to the core, I'm just judging them by their fruit. Cause they ain't suffering curses. If I was carnal, I promise I'd punch you in person. I know this is an uncomfortable subject. They making millions off our culture and black people suffering from it. Yeah, they don't believe in Christ. They the Antichrist. Make a living off of niggas. They a parasite. I ain't afraid to tell the truth. Niggas terrified. About to go DEFCON 4. I ain't satisfied. That is absolute proof that they know we are the real Jews. You got the record. Go find me a white Jew on any archaeology in Egypt anywhere. You will never find a piece of archaeology with white people as slaves in Egypt. So don't tell me that they were slaves and it's their identity, and they know. The Lord knows the blasphemy of you so-called white people that say you are Jews and you are not Jews. You are not the people of the law. You are not God's chosen people. God's chosen people are living in the ghettos of America. God's chosen people are impoverished. Don't let them take you out your spirit, gotta stay focused. Can't go back living how I was, cause it's repulsive. I don't ask for much, this all I ever wanted. And not killing down behind it, you can quote me. Yeah, these hoes for the streets, they ain't holy. I ain't pulling up the spiritual when devils kiss your boots. We ain't no cowards, please don't say what you gon' do. I'll post some on the internet, you think you gotta prove. Cause I got Karak Ice, I got Shia War, got Kasar Pekan, I got Imawan, got Kabataban, I got Tazabah, got Kakamaiman, got Karan Yala, got Yarakabar, Chopper Issachar, bring out Gabba War. Couple young men in this bitch with an olive oil. If you ain't in these ranks, then you out of order. It's a time for everything right now, it's time for war. And I'm still the same nigga when I'm not recording. I pull up, shoot from half like I'm Michael Jordan. I don't think they fit to join the Lord's army. I survived a Christian church, moral of the story. I done beat so many demons, I got war stories. Gorman look so hardcore, look like I'm morphed on him. Appetite for battle, yeah, I'm war hungry. I ain't choose this life, the Lord chose me. I'm a certified priest and I don't take that lightly. How I feel about this shit, yeah, I can't describe it. I know they mad at me, cause I can't trust the white man. I gird up my loins and did something mighty. Yeah, what's done in private, it's gonna come to light. Speak the truth into these bones and watch them come to life. All my friends are dead, let loose all the plagues, yeah.
All right, Shalom Israel. This is the Israelite School of UPK. Start out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander Juliana. I'm Priest and Officer of 500 Natazab, ISUBK Sacramento, ISUBK NorCal. Today is Wednesday night. Salakia. Damn, that's deep. Today is a Wednesday night biblical law class. Where we go into the law, and we go into parts of the Bible that your Christian pastor will never go over. You know what I mean? And I picked the topic. Salakia. See something real quick. You know what I'm saying? I picked this topic. Antiochus Epiphanies and the Gentiles. I picked this specific topic because it's very important to if you don't understand, um, you know, Antiochus Epiphanes, Alexander the Great, and all these men. If you don't understand what happened in their time, you understand during the Maccabean revolt and all that, then you really won't understand who the Gentiles are according to the Bible. So it's very important for you to know this history. Salaki, I'm trying to make sure I send this class to the brother. Give me 1 second. But like I said, it's very important that you know this specific history and time period and what was going on. Because if you don't, it'll be very, very hard for you to understand the Gentiles in the New Testament and Paul's writings. You know what I mean? And Peter and Luke. And it'll be hard for you to understand these brothers. All right, so just give me a second. Let me send this to the brother right quick. Okay, hold on. Give me 1 second. Salakia. But make sure you put your name, city, and state, Baba Kasha. Let's see. Hold on. Give me a second. Just give me a second right quick. I need to send this class to somebody. Let's see. We back live. Salakia. I had to make sure I send this class to our brother. All right, so but yeah, like I was saying, man, if you don't understand um, what happened during the Greeks, you know what I mean, ruling over us, then you really won't understand um, who the Gentiles are and who Christ was talking about and who Peter and Paul and everybody was was uh was writing and talking to all throughout the New Testament. All right, so first what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to First Maccabees because this might be a kind of a long breakdown. So let's just get straight to it. Let's go to First Maccabees chapter 1 verse let's start at 1. And this is the book of First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. Okay, so if y'all not familiar with who Alexander is, you know they got a movie about him on Netflix. It's like and you know they got various movies on him. You know what I'm saying? And this what y'all need to understand. Like the Bible is a history book. The Bible is a book of records. It's not just a novel or just some book you just go to when you want to pray to God because you want to win the lottery, or you want to win a car or something. You know what I'm saying? Or you want something mysterious to happen. The Bible is a history book. These were people. The people that's mentioned in this book are people that actually lived at one point in time. You know what I'm saying? And we all can attest to the fact that Alexander was a real person. No value, won't no historian ever say that Salaki, that Alexander the Great was a myth or he wasn't a real person. Every real historian knows that Alexander the Great or Alexander the Greek was an actual person, and this is and the Bible mentions him. You know what I'm saying? He is made mention in the Bible. So let's read that again. And it happened that and it happened after that Alexander, the son of Philip, that Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. And we all know that Darius was actually a person too. You know what I mean? He was a Persian, which would be modern day Iran. You know what I'm saying? He was over the Persians, and it said that Alexander smote him, meaning Alexander went to war with Darius. You know what I mean? And he defeated him, and he reigned first in his stead over Greece. Because prior to this, the oppressor they didn't have any land. You know what I mean? A lot of people think that white people come from Europe. They don't come from Europe. They're not the original inhabitants of Europe. But you think that now because of the whitewashing of history and the whitewashing of everything. Just like how 100 years from now, a couple 100 years from now, e- everybody on the planet is gonna think that the white people that came to America and conquered America, they not gonna think that it's not gonna be written. It's not gonna be a oral tradition passed down that they conquered America. What's gonna happen is they're gonna rewrite history. It's gonna say that America has always been their land. They native to America. You let any white person tell you, even to this day, you ain't got to go a couple 100 years from now. You know what I'm saying? Let a white person they ask where a white person where they come from, they gonna say they native to America. This is their land. And what I'm saying is that this is the history and the culture of all white people. They move to a land, they conquer the people of the land and they conquer the land, then they murder the inhabitants of that land, and then they say, hey, you know what? We the original people of this land now. You know what I mean? You know how I know? Because they did it with the Native American Indians. Now, who's the American now? The white people are the real Americans now. They did it with the South Africans. They moved the South Africans. They murdered the South Africans, and guess what? White people are the South Africans now, and it's the same thing in Europe. The original inhabitants of Europe are Samoans, Hawaiians, and you know what I mean, Polynesians, and those are the original. And you can this is actual history. Those are the original inhabitants of Europe and Greece and Ireland. You know all those European countries, man. Those are the original inhabitants. And what we read right now, it said that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. Okay, so prior to Alexander and Philip, prior to them, which is Philip was Alexander's dad, prior to them conquering Macedonia, in Greece and Athens and all that, they were living in the caves in the Caucasus caves. That's why they call Caucasian. Why? Because they come from the Caucasus Mountains. You know what I mean? They were living in the caves of which would be modern day Turkey right now. They were living in caves. Because you know why? Because the Lord, they wasn't they wasn't given an inheritance from God. Pretty much everybody on this planet was given land. That's what an inheritance is. Was given a land that belongs to them, except white people. You know what I mean? And when they came out of those caves, the first place that they came to was Macedonia. That's what we're reading right now. And they took Macedonia from the Japhetic people, and they kicked them out of their land. Now today we believe Europeans to be the original inhabitants of Europe, which they're not. You know what I mean? But that's a whole different breakdown right there. So we gonna keep getting into it. But like I said, Alexander was a real person, and his existence is recorded inside the Bible. Let's keep reading. It said, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. All right, and look at in his short little time of him being basically a ruler over the Greeks, he slew many kings. Anybody that was a superpower or on this earth at the time, in the time of Alexander defeated him. Alexander conquered everything that you know to be the known world, all from Europe to the Middle East, Egypt, Africa. You know what I mean? What else? India. Man, Alexander the Great conquered all that in a short time span of him being a ruler, right? He said, and he went through to the end of the earth and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. Right. And he conquered every nation on this damn planet, and he went and he took spoils of all those nations. And he said before the earth was quiet before him, meaning that he conquered everybody that was worth conquering to where there was nobody coming up against him. You know what I mean? There was no the earth was quiet before him. You know what I mean? Let's keep reading. And it said, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. And historians will say that he fell sick and died. Perceived that he fell sick and died from an unknown disease, right? I'm saying, but some other historians will say that he died from a sexually transmitted disease. You know what I mean? Because the Greeks were known homosexuals. You know what I mean? And they don't even hide it in the movies. You can go on Netflix right now and look up a movie. Look up Alexander the Great. A movie gonna pop up. Go on YouTube, and you know what I'm saying. Look at the culture of these people. It's the same day as America. It's the same thing as the people in France and any Europeans. You know what I mean? They always had a culture of homosexuality, and so, like I said, some historians will say that he died from an unknown disease, but then on the other hand, some historians will say that he died from a sexually transmitted disease like AIDS or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And so, but he died fairly quick. You know what I mean? I think he ruled like 12 years. It might say it right here. It said, wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So while he was alive, he knew he was gonna die. He fell sick, and everybody can tell he was gonna die. He knew he was gonna die, and so what he did was he parted his kingdom. Calling me, bro. So like yeah. So like, let me see. You keep calling me. We gonna just give me a second. But yeah, but he parted his kingdom among his four generals because he knew he was gonna die. All right, so give me a second. Somebody call me. Slovakia. Yeah, Shalom Christ. Te- nah, teaching this class. All right, all right, come. Okay, yeah. So anyway, Salaki about that. So he Alexander knew he was going to die. So what he ended up doing is he ended up parting his kingdom, with his four generals. You know what I mean? And the names of the four generals were Cassander, Ptolemy, Antiochus, Salakia, Antigonus, and Seleucus. You know what I'm saying? Those were the four generals that he parted his lands with. You know what I mean? So let's keep reading a little bit. But remember that though, because now this part of history is very, very, very important. So let's keep reading, right? I said, wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable, and he had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years, and then he died. So he only, and with the 12 years of him ruling. I mean, he was able to conquer the whole known earth at this time, known world at this time. Listen, and his servants bear rule everyone in his place. And after his death, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So I look after Alexander the Great died, he gave his four generals, he parted his land. And I'm saying he gave one general Egypt, he gave one general Syria, he gave the other general the Europe, and he got the other general like India, and then they parted his lands, right? And it said after that, evils began to multiply in the earth. You know what I'm saying? Once they conquered everything, and then these generals became rulers in these different lands, evils began to multiply on the first of the earth. You know what I mean? And then let's keep going. And it said, and also, they started to go to war with each other, and it was called the Diado. One of the wars was called the Diadochi Wars, and but you can read it. Also, you can read it in Daniel the 11th chapter. It was called the Diadochi Wars. It was like the king of the north versus the king of the south. The king of the north was Seleucid, which is one of the generals that he gave a name to, and the other one was the Ptolemaic. You know what I mean? And they went to war with each other, wanting to be like Alexander the Great, and not just share a piece of the kingdom, but actually rule over the whole thing. You know what I mean? Rule over the whole earth at this time. All right, so let's keep reading. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in 137 year of the kingdom of the Greeks. So now, after evils begin to multiply on earth, it said a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in a hostage at Rome. Uh, he became the rule over the Greeks. You know what I mean? And this is somebody that was evil as hell, man. You know what I mean? And Antiochus Epiphanes is somebody like I said, the Bible is actually history, because you can look this person up, and this is a person who actually lived. You know what I mean? This is somebody who actually was evil as hell. You know what I mean? And Antiochus, and I think he was Antiochus the fifth. You know what I mean? If I'm not mistaken, let me see. No, he was Antiochus the fourth, and yeah, he was Antiochus the fourth, and he came from a renowned family, as you know that his Antiochus the first was one of Alexander's generals. You know what I mean? Who he parted his land and gave his land to, and like I said, after him they put crowns on their heads, and their children put crowns on their heads for many years. and this is one of the children, one of the children from Antiochus that put a crown on his head. That was even they called him a wicked root because what he did to the Israelites at this time, it was so evil, man. You know what I mean? It was so evil the things that he did to Israelites at this time. All right, so and also this is also where you get uh, the city Antioch in the book when you read the coin the book the book Acts. You know what I mean? When you read about Antioch, there was an Antioch. It comes from Antiochus. You know what I mean? All right, so let's keep going. Should I drop down? Yeah, I think I'm gonna just drop down because there's a lot to read. No, I'm gonna just read it. I'm gonna just read it. No matter. And it said, and in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, "Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow." So then came wicked men that rose up out of Israel in that time, because at this time Israel was we was we was we was doing everything against God at this time. You know what I mean? And damn, this phone about to die. So I get me the charger. At this time, man, we was doing everything that was against the Lord at this time, man. And then wicked men rose up out of Israel, and they said, man, let us follow the heathen, because since we ain't been following the heathen, nigga, life been hell for us. You know what I mean? So let's continue to follow the heathen, and so life can be better for us. Just like Reverend Sharpton do, TD Jakes, you know, the typical Christian, the typical Christian. All right. They said, let us make a covenant with the heathen round about us, for since we have departed from them, we have had much sorrow. And it really what this was them being in fear. You know what I mean? They was absolutely in fear because they know what Antiochus did. They know what type of dude he was, right? All right, so yeah, make sure this phone charging. All right, so let's keep reading. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so for herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So they were so evil, they went to the king that gave them license to do the ordinances according to the heathen. He gave them okay to, man, yes, you can assimilate into our culture. You know what I mean? And that's why the Bible told black people and Hispanics to be holy. What did that mean? To be separate. Because if you don't be holy and be separate, and you take on somebody else's culture, guess what you got to do when you take on somebody else's culture? You got to leave your culture. You know what I mean? And that's what we was doing all throughout the goddamn Bible, and that's why the Lord was on our line like that. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem, according to the custom of the heathen. Right. Then they built a place to exercise. This is where you get the word gymnasium and gym from. You know what I'm saying? This is all Greek culture and custom. You know what I mean? And he said, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant and joined themselves to the heathen and were sold to do mischief. Right. So like I said, if you take on the culture of some another nation, you gotta leave. You gotta forsake your culture. And that's exactly what these men did. Instead of eating a certain way and following the dietary law, and not walking around half naked, you know what I mean, and not circumcising their children and themselves, and you know, they stopped doing those things. They stopped circumcising their children. They stopped circumcising themselves. They start eating pork and clams and lobster. You know what I mean? They start shaving their beards off. This is what they were doing. They fully assimilated into the Greek culture. That's what they did. Let's keep reading. And you got to understand, this is very important to understand who the Gentiles are. Now, when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion over two realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid of him and fled, and many were wounded to death. Right? Who was Ptolemy? Ptolemy was another European. He was another Greek who who Alexander handed his kingdom down to. He handed his kingdom down to four generals, and this was the seed of one of the four generals. You know what I mean? And like, and what did it say? It said Antiochus wanted to rule over Egypt too. He just didn't want to rule over what he was ruling over. He wanted Egypt too. So then he made war with that general. And like I said, that war was called the Adultery Wars. You know what I'm saying? And it was the North versus the South. What was they called? The Seleucid and the Ptolemaic kings. You know what I'm saying? The North versus the South. You can read about that in Daniel's the 11th chapter. All right, and it said, wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, and it said, and made war against Ptolemy, king of Egypt. But Ptolemy was afraid, and he fled. Verse 19. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that, Antiochus had smitten Egypt. He turned again in the 143rd year and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude. And he entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar. Look at why did he enter into the sanctuary proudly? Why did Antiochus enter into Jerusalem proudly? Because why? Because he already had Israelites there that was already practicing Greek culture. All the people that had rulership and had a say so. You know what I'm saying? That was supposed to be priests. They already had fully assimilated into Greek culture. You know what I mean? That's why he walked into Jerusalem, into Israel proudly, because all the rulers follow him anyways. They're already they're already a part of his kingdom. You know what I mean? And it said, and entered proudly into the sanctuary and took away the golden altar and the candlestick of light and all the vessels thereof. And what is the candlestick of light? The candlestick of light is talking about the menorah and all the vessels thereof and all our stuff that we had, all our gold and you know what I mean, our valuable stuff that was in the temple. He took in the table of the showbread and the pouring vessels and the veils and the censers of gold and the veil and the crown and the golden ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. And he took everything. You know what I mean? He took also the silver and the gold and the precious vessels. Also, he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when we already even had hidden treasures, we was trying to hide from these devils, and they still found it and took it. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre and spoken very proudly. And why did he make a great massacre? Because everybody didn't just follow and assimilate into Greek culture. You have brothers and sisters that were still following the Lord, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and they tried to stand up to this madness, and they were killed. They were murdered behind it. You know what I mean? Let's go to verse 25. Therefore, there were a great mourning in Israel in every place where they were. Let me see. Let me see where I'm gonna go to. Verse 28. And the land also was moved from the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Judah was covered with confusion. You know what I'm saying? Why was they covered with confusion? Because we was like, God damn, why is this going on, man? Why these devils? Like it was different. When we was under the Darius and all these other kingdoms that conquered us. We was allowed to keep our culture, but under the Greeks, we wasn't allowed to keep our culture as being Jews. You couldn't say that you was a Jew. You couldn't grow your beard. You know what I mean? You couldn't rock your braids in the afro. You couldn't say, "Oh no, I don't eat pork." You know what I mean? You couldn't do none of those things. And if you did, you got put to death. You know what I'm saying? That's why we was in confusion. Let's keep going. Let's go to 41. Let's go to 41. It said, and moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed to the commandment of the king. Right? He wrote to all his kingdom because he conquered everything. After he got Ptolemy out the way in Egypt, he rules over everything, and he wrote to his whole kingdom that all should become one people. Don't that sound familiar? Don't Ain't that the same thing America do? Instead, you know why? Because has always been a culture. You know what I mean? And why would somebody want you to become one? First off, of course they're gonna say that after they conquered you already. I conquered you. Of course, I'm going to tell you, oh man, let's be friends now. You know what I mean? Let bygones be bygones. So then I won't have to worry about you stabbing me on my back. That's what he was on. It said, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. And look, and all the heathen said, yeah, we'll do that. He already conquered us. You know what I'm saying? You already killing us for keeping that. Look, we'll do whatever you say. Yeah, and it's verse 43. Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. For the king had sent letter by messenger unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and the festivals. So that's what you got to understand. We wasn't allowed to keep our culture as being Israelites no more, and we took on the culture of being Greeks. You understand? So now let's actually jump into this topic now, because we just read it right now. What happened? We wasn't allowed to keep our culture as being Israelites, but we had to adopt the culture of being Greeks, and that's where you get the word Hellenized from. That's what Greek means, Hellenized. So now let's jump into it, because this is, like I said, this is knowing that history, and it's we go way deeper than what I just broke down. I was just giving you uh, a brief summary of what happened. All right, let me see what I'm gonna get next. Let's go to John right quick, because the whole foundation of Christianity is the fact that they the is John 3:16, and the fact that they think that John 3:16 is referring to every nation and race on the planet. God gave His only begotten Son. You know what I mean? That whosoever. That their whole foundation is based on that scripture. You know what I mean? But they not knowing that it's talking about Israelites that were scattered throughout the four corners of the earth for disobeying God. All right, so let me see. 30, was it 35? All right, so first I'll let me get John 3:16 right quick. Let me just break that down right quick. All right, let's go to John 3:16. This is John 3, chapter 3, verse 16. It said, "For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in Him should not perish but have everlasting life." So, reading this from the surface, you would think that this is talking about, you will see whosoever in the world, and you would think that it's talking about everybody on the planet. The God gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever, the world, you see those things, you say, but how can you get around that? You know what I mean? But you got to understand context. You got to understand who the Bible, who the New Testament is written to and for. You got to understand all these things. You got to understand Alexander the Great and his four generals. You know what I mean? You got to understand all that. Because if you don't, you will read this and you will think that it's talking about everybody on the planet. So let's go to Psalms right quick. Let's keep that. Let's go to Psalms. Psalms chapter 90, verse 2. Psalms chapter 90 and 2. Because it said, whosoever in the world, right? So let's read this. Psalms chapter 90, verse 2. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hadst formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. Did you catch that? I'm going to read it again. Before the mountains were brought forth, or even thou had formed the earth and the world. You see that it's a difference between the earth and the world. It's a very difference. That's why it's making a distinction between the two, because they're in fact not the same. Read it again. Before the mountains were brought forth, we already know the Lord created everything on this planet. The mountains, the sea, the animals, the people. The Lord created everything, right? Or ever thou hast formed the earth and the world. See, look at the Lord said He formed the earth and the world. Meaning what? It's a difference between the earth that you live on and the world. Earth and world is not the same thing. You know what I mean? The earth is the place that we live on, the people and all that. The world is something else. The world is talking about an age or society. So when you see the word world in the Bible, it's talking about that age or society. It's not talking about every person on the planet. You know what I mean? Just like, for example, if you talking to somebody, right? You might be talking to them, and you've been talking to them for 5 minutes and they ain't heard nothing you said. And you be like, hey man, snap out of it, man. You in your own world right now. You daydreaming, you in your own world. You know why? Because it's a difference. It's a different definition. It's different definitions of the word world. World don't mean the earth or the planet. You know what I mean? Or you might say your kid's your world, or your daughter is your world, or your family's your world. You might walk up the street, end up in another neighborhood, and say, man, it's a whole different world over here. You know what I mean? And those are key examples and definitions that you need to understand before you pull scriptures like John 3:16. Because the Christian church, they pull John 3:16 and they don't want to hear nothing you got to say. John 3:16 means God loves everybody. And then they build their whole foundation on that. And guess what? It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong. Let me see. Let's go back to John 3:16. It said, what? For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in him should not perish but have everlasting life. It said, so reading this for face value, it said that the Lord gave his only begotten Son to everybody on the planet. His Son died for everybody on the planet. Let's go to Matthew's right quick. Let's go to Matthew's chapter 1, verse 1, I believe. All right. Or is it 1 and 21? Oh, yeah. Let's go to Matthew chapter 1, verse 21. And it said, Matthew chapter 1, verse 21. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. You see that? That's why Christ came and died. Christ came and died to save his people from their sins, not everybody else on the planet. That's in the Bible. This is Matthew chapter 1, verse 21. Don't take my word for it. Actually pick your Bible up and read. If you in church, ask your Christian pastor what this means. I'm gonna read it again. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. If Christians only knew that breakdown, you know what I mean? That Christ never came and died on the cross for the whole entire planet and everybody on it that sins against God. No, he came and he died for his people. That's it. And we just got that out the Bible. So now let's go back to John. Let's go back to John chapter 7 and 35. Okay, John chapter 7, verse 35. And it said, then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go? So like, whither will he go that so like that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? And why are they saying this? Why are they saying this? Let's go to what is it, Matthew 15? We're gonna jump around a little bit, Salakia. Let's go to Matthew 15, and then we're gonna go back to there. Matthew 15 and 24, I believe. All right. And it said, let's start at uh let's start at 22. Matthew chapter 15, verse 22. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coast and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grieved vexed with a devil. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, and why did he answer? Why did Christ answer her not a word? Because she was not an Israelite. Like we just read Matthew's 1 and 1. He came and he died to save his people from their sins. She came complaining about her daughter being vexed with a devil, and guess what? The Lord Christ didn't care. Because why? Because she was not Christ's people. Christ came with a mission, and his mission was not to save everybody, or to save this woman and her child. But he answered her not a word. And his disciples came and besought him, saying, "Send her away, for she crieth after us." And his disciples, man, like, man, like Christ, man, can you tell her to get away? She keep following us and crying out after us, man. We ain't here for her. And what did Christ say? But he answered and said, "I am not sent but into the lost sheep of the house of Israel." That's what he turned around and said to her. "I'm not sent but into the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Who were the lost sheep? The lost sheep was the brothers and sisters that was dispersed. You know what I'm saying? Like it say in Deuteronomy 28:64. Those lost sheep are the brothers and sisters that was practicing Greek culture, that forgot who they was. You understand? So let's keep going. Then came she and worshipped him, saying, "Lord, help me." But he answered and said, "It is not meet to take the children's bread and to cast it to dogs." And what does it mean? What do he mean by that? Meaning meat, not meaning actual food, but meat meaning it's not good to take the children's take what belonged to Israel and give it to another nation. That's not a good thing to do. But guess what? Your Christian pastor, they think it's good. They think it's good to take the Bible and then take the culture and the records of this book and try to and try to make it include everybody. They try to make it for everyone. When Christ just said it right here, that's not good. You know what I mean? But that's what Christ told her. He told her, "Man, I didn't come for everybody. I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel." So-called Black, Hispanic, Native American Indian, you the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's why you don't know nothing about who you are prior to 1492, prior to 1619. You don't know. You understand? So let's go back to John chapter 7, verse 35. Oh, let me see. Uh, Hold on. I can think of Matthew's 8. Is it Matthew's 18? Lock it. Let's see. Okay, look, scratch that. We just gonna go back to John 7 and 35. John chapter 7, verse 35. Then said the Jews among themselves, "Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go into the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles?" So now look at the disciples, like, man, where is he gonna go? Is he gonna go among the Gentiles and teach what he taught us to the Gentiles? You know what I mean? What is that what he gonna do? But mind you, let's read that again slowly. It said, then said the Jews among themselves, "Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go into the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles?" So you see that, right? It's two different definitions of Gentiles right there. The Jews said, "Where is he going to go? To the dispersed among the Gentiles?" It didn't just say, "Is he going to go to the Gentiles?" It said, "Is he going to go to the dispersed among the Gentiles?" And why is he saying this? Because it was Israelites that was scattered in all lands at this time. It's Israelites that was scattered all throughout Europe, Africa, India, Asia. You know what I'm saying? All the way over here in America. We were scattered everywhere as a curse, Deuteronomy 28:64, for being disobedient to the Lord. And that's why they said, "What? Whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go to the dispersed among the Gentile?" They said, "Is he going to go to the dispersed people that's living among the Gentiles, that's not living in Jerusalem?" And keeping Passover and keeping the feast of dedication, and you know what I'm saying, keeping the high holy days and Sabbath service and the laws. Is he gonna go to them? That was one of their questions. And they said, okay, so remember that. They said, "Is he gonna go to the dispersed?" Let's see who the dispersed is. Let's go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel, and also, man, if you got any questions in the chat, man, put your question. You know what I mean? Make sure you put your name, city, and state so I can mark you down for attendance. And make sure you like and share the class, Baba Kasha. So let's go to Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 21. And it said, let's start at verse 20. And the sticks whereon thou write shall be in thine hand before thy eyes, and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will make the children of Israel, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will bring them on every side, and bring them into their own land, and will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. You see that? Let's keep reading. Okay, so if you just to give a little backdrop, Israel was known as two nations because the kingdom was split. You know what I'm saying? After Solomon. After Solomon, the kingdom split, and we wasn't known as one nation anymore. We was known as two nations. You know what I'm saying? The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The Israel and Judah. That's what we were known as. And the Lord said this is a prophecy talking, saying that the Lord's gonna bring us back together. You understand? Uh, It said, Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So they shall be my people, and I will be their God. Right? Meaning what? It said, Neither shall they defile themselves with any more idols, because we was idol worshiping. We was worshiping Diana, Zeus, and up under the Greeks. We was doing all that. Even to this day, we worship white Jesus. We worship Muhammad and that rock in Mecca. You know what I mean? We worship all these different idols. And the Lord said He was gonna bring us back. Uh, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places where they have sinned, and will cleanse them. Right, because we all these different lands that we stay in, the Lord said He was gonna bring us up out of these lands and bring us back. You know what I'm saying? And David my servant shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. Right. So how read it again. It said, And David my servant shall be king over them. How is David going to be king over them if King David is already dead? This is talking about because Christ is going to sit on the throne of Jesse. You know what I mean? Christ is going to sit on the throne of King David. I mean, Salakia. When he returned, he gonna sit on the throne of David. And it said, and they shall have one shepherd. Right, we gonna have one shepherd. All right. So now, let's go to John. John 10:16. John 10:16. And another John chapter 10 verse 16. And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. You see that we just read that in Ezekiel. He said, What? Let's read it again. And other sheep I have. Who's the other sheep? The other sheep is the Israelites that will consider Gentiles for following the customs of the heathen. You know what I mean? The other sheep is the Israelites that's considered Gentiles for worshiping other gods. You know what I mean? Those were the other sheep, which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Right? It ain't gonna be two nations no more. That's what we just got through reading in Ezekiel. It's not gonna be two nations. It's gonna be one fold and one shepherd. That's what it's gonna be. You know what I'm saying? And that was always brother's mission in the New Testament. Paul, Peter, and all. And guess what? It's still our mission today. You know what I mean? We still reliving Acts right now. It's still our mission today. You see us teaching these classes. You see us going to camp, but we tell you, man, look, this is only for Black, Hispanic, Native American Indians. You know what I'm saying? Like we read in John, that's dispersed among the heathen. This is only for them. You know what I mean? Because it was at one point in time before Christ, it was only it was damn near only for the Israelites that were in Jerusalem, that never missed the Passover, that wasn't shaving a beard, that never ate pork. You know what I mean? That wasn't born from one of their parents committed adultery, and and all that. But Christ came and died to say, no, look, it's not just for them; it's for all Israelites. It's for all Israelites. You know what I mean? It ain't just for the ones that's in Jerusalem, that's circumcised. It ain't just for them; it's for all Israelites. Why? Because we have to bring them back to the fold, so there will be one herd and one shepherd. That's the goal. All right. All right. So let's go to John 10:11. Let's jump up a little bit. Um, and who's the shepherd that it's talking about? It said it should be one fold and one shepherd. Let's go to the 11. It said, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. Who is the good shepherd? The good shepherd is Christ. That's who the shepherd is. You know what I mean? Let's go to Ezekiel 34. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 34. Christ is the shepherd. Ezekiel 34 and 23. Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 23. And I will set up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them, even my servant David. He shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. You see that? And this is not talking about King David. Why? Because King David was already dead at this time. King David was not alive. And what did it say? And I will set them up one shepherd over them, and he shall feed them. Even my servant David, he shall feed them, and he shall be their shepherd. And why is it saying David gonna be their shepherd? Because Christ comes from the lineage of King David, and he's gonna sit on the throne of King David. And it said that he's gonna be their shepherd. He said he's gonna set up one shepherd. Let's see who that shepherd is. Let's go back to Acts chapter 10 and 11. I am, this is Acts chapter 10 verse 11. I am the good shepherd, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for his sheep. Is that not what Christ did? Christ said he's the good shepherd and he gave his life for his sheep. That's who Christ died for. Christ died for his sheep. He gave his life for who? Black, Hispanic, Native Americans, the Israelites, according to the Bible. That's why we read earlier in Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. He came and died for his people for their sins. You know what I mean? He said, I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd give his life for the sheep. That's exactly what Christ did. The sheep is not everyone. You know what I mean? Let's go to Revelation 7 and 9. Like I said, we're gonna jump around a little bit, man. If you're tuning in, make sure you put your name, city, and state. Revelation chapter 7, verse 9. Revelation chapter 7, verse 9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. So you see that? So this is a verse that Christians love to go to. Christians love to go to this verse. They see this verse, they say all nations and kindreds and people, and they say, you know what? See, I told you, John 3:16 was talking about everybody. It's a fact. You know what I mean? It said, and after this I beheld, lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, and stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palm and arms. But let's read this slowly though, because Christians don't read. They try to pick at any scripture that they think fit whatever narrative that they running with. You know what I mean? So let's read that again. It said, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations. You see that? It didn't say all people. You know what I'm saying? It said of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne. All right, so let's get this. Let's go to second Ezra's. Let's go to second Ezra's. I need to get me a apocrypha. I don't know what the hell where my apocrypha went. But that's a shame. All right. So let's read this again. This is Revelation chapter 7 verse 9. And this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude. So now we gonna figure out who that we about to figure out who that great multitude is in just a second. Which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with the white robes and arms in their hands. So it's a great nation. I mean, a great multitude. So look at. Let's go to Second Ezra chapter 3 verse 16, and it said, and unto him thou gavest Isaac, and unto Isaac also thou gavest Jacob and Esau. So like, let me plug this phone up. Let's read that one more time. It said, and unto him thou gavest Isaac, and unto Isaac also thou gavest Jacob and Esau. As for Jacob, thou didst choose him, choose him to thee, and put by Esau. And so Jacob became a great multitude. You see that, right? Just get the last part. And so Jacob became a great multitude. So let's read this again. And after this I beheld, lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues. So when it's talking about all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, that great multitude is who? Jacob. And so Jacob became a great multitude. So when it's saying a great multitude, it's talking about Jacob. Who is Jacob? Israel. He changed his name to Israel. He became the forefather of the Israelites, who today is so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. You know what I mean? So when it said of what it say, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, it's talking about why? Because Black, Hispanic, Native Americans speak different tongues today. Not like the Christian church where they be doing all that estela bosta and all that garbage. Not the ain't talking about that. Tongues talking about it's synonymous for language. You know what I mean? Like you go to Haiti, the Haitians speak Creole. Come to America, we African Americans speak English. You go to Brazil, they speak Spanish or French or something like that. You know what I mean? You go to Mexico, the Mexicans speak Spanish. We all speak different languages, and we all are in different uh, uh, countries. You know what I mean? Because that was a curse, like I said in Deuteronomy 28:64. You know what I mean? So, but that's just one of the verses that Christians try to pull on you. Let's go to Jeremiah 17:4, because, like I said, this certain stuff you got to understand before you start trying to break down the New Testament. You know what I mean? We were scattered into all these different nations. That's why. Matter of fact, let me get that Deuteronomy 28 and 64. Let me just get that right quick. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and thou shalt serve other gods which neither nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So look at, the Lord said He gonna scatter us among all people. So when I say different tongues and nations, the Lord scattered us among all people. That's what you gotta. That's first and foremost. That's what you have to understand. And then guess what? When we were scattered among all these other people, guess what? We forgot our culture and our heritage. We forgot all of it. But that's why you see brothers waking up every single day like Nick Cannon, Kyrie Irving, Kanye West, Carmelo Anthony. You know, you got all these different people waking up and understanding this. So let's go to Jeremiah chapter 17 and 4. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. See, look at even the Bible. The Bible said we was going to discontinue from our heritage that the Lord gave us. Meaning what? We were going to forget we were Israelites. We was gonna think we African American now. And how can you be African American when that's two white people, two white men names? What were you called before the? I'm saying, what's it called? Before the colonizer conquered and colonized America, before 1492, what were you called before that? Because African American, that's not an old name. That's not a name that's 1,000 years old. That name not even 500 years old. You know why? Because the men didn't live over 500 years ago. So what were you called before that? You know what I mean? And that's what the Bible telling you. The Bible said you was going to discontinue from your heritage. That's why you don't know who you is. That's why black people think we part of Egypt. We think we Baptists and Christians and Muslims and atheists and Buddhists, and we ain't none of that. We just spiritual. You know what I mean? We got all these different identities because we don't know who we is no more. We trying to make something up and find who he is. You know what I mean? And we trying to attach ourselves to all these different cultures and religions and people, and it's destroying us. What he said, read it again. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. You know what I'm saying? And he said we was gonna serve our enemies in a land that we don't know. That's America. That's what we live in right now. Not only do we discontinue from our heritage, but we actually serving our enemy. We watching that right now with Kyrie Irving. You know what I'm saying? They want this man to go on TV and say, apologize, meet with rabbis, donate $500,000. He got to do all this because he posted a book that was supposed to have some anti-Semitic rhetoric in it. But meanwhile, the platform that it's on, are from Jewish people. It's a Jewish platform. But then for some reason, all this falls on the back of Kyrie. It just don't make no sense, man. You know what I mean? So let's keep going. Let's get Galatians 3:26. So I get it. Galatians chapter 3, verse 26. Because you're going to get Christians out there that pull these scriptures and think they know the Bible. And this is how you're going to cut them. Going over the scriptures that Christians love to pull and finding the precept form. Because that's where you got the advantage at finding the precepts for the scriptures that you're talking about. All right, so we go to Galatians chapter 3, verse 26. It said, for ye are all the children of God by faith in Jesus Christ. You see that? It said, for you all are the children of God by faith in Jesus Christ. All right, let me see. Let's keep reading. For as many of you as have been baptized in Christ have put on Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male or female, for ye all are one in Christ. For if ye be Christ, then are ye Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. So Christians, they love to pull this scripture, man. What did it say? It said, neither is there Jew nor Greek. So why is that so important? Because we went over Antiochus Epiphanies. We got a brief breakdown of him. He was a Greek. He came. His forefathers came up under Alexander the Greek. You understand? And why is it saying? Because look, if this was talking like people see Jew or Greek, and they say, "Man, it's talking about everybody." Okay, if it's talking about everybody, why is it only mentioning Jew or Greek? What about the Chinese? You know what I mean? What about the Africans? What about the Samoans? What about all these different people? Why is it only mentioned Jew or Greek? Because what you'll come to realize is that when they say Jew or Greek, it's just the Greeks are other Jews that are practicing the Greek culture. You know what I'm saying? Let me get this definition right quick. I want you to understand. Greek means Hellenistic. That's what Greek means. And Hellenistic, let me see definition. Yeah, so like I said, Greek, it said neither Jew nor Greek because Greek means Hellenistic. When you look into that word, it means Hellenist, to be Hellenized. Why? Because the Jews of that time were Hellenized, meaning what? They were practicing the culture of the Greeks. You know what I mean? They were considering themselves to be Greeks. No different from what you're doing right now. You ask a black person what's his nationality, he's gonna say I'm American. You know what I mean? I shave my beard off. I celebrate Christmas. You know what I mean? I watch sports. I barbecue. I eat pork. Man, I got one wife. You know, the typical thumbs up. You know what I mean? Family or person. You know what I mean? That's what they was. Let me see. He said, also, let's get the definition of Greek. It said, that, it said, the ancient or modern language of Greece, the only representation of the Hellenic branch of Indo-European family. Hellenistic. So let's look up Hellenistic. Let's look up Hellenistic right quick. Hellenistic, relating to Greek history, language, and culture from the death of Alexander the Great to the death of Cleopatra and Mark Antony. Let me see. That's not what I'm looking for. Slovakia. Let me just find something right quick. All right, so look. Okay, Hellenistic period. In classical antiquity, the Hellenistic period covers the time of in Mediterranean history and classical Greece between the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC and the emergence of Roman Empire as signifies the Battle of Antiochus. Antium. All right. The ancient Greek word Hellas, you know what I'm saying, was gradually recognized as the name of Greece from which the word Hellenistic was derived. Hellenistic is derived from Hellenic, in which the later refers to Greece itself, while the former encompasses all ancient territories under Greece, influence in particular the east of the conquest of Alexander the Great. So that's what Greek means. Greek means Hellenistic or Hellenized, to be Hellenized. Why? Because you had Jews that were. So I want to say neither Jew or Greek. Let's read that again. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is either bond nor free. It's saying neither Jew nor Greek because there were Jews practicing Greek culture, shaving their beard off, eating pork, walking around half naked, not circumcising themselves. You know what I'm saying? They was fully in it. It's the same thing with today. You got black people who think they're fully Americans. You know what I mean? Until they get woke up from the truth. You was Hellenized. You know what I mean? And like Officer Tabuan said once there's no difference between being Hellenized and colonized. It's the same thing by the same people. You understand? So that should help you understand what I mean by Hellenized. Black people was colonized. Hispanics were colonized. Native American Indians were colonized. And guess what? In that colonization, we lost everything. We lost our heritage. We lost our whole way of life. We don't remember what the hell we used to eat prior to slavery. It wasn't hot dogs and hamburgers. You know what I mean? We don't even know our nationality. We don't know how to speak Hebrew, read Hebrew. We don't know any. I mean, we doing ISUK, but brothers and sisters in the world, we completely lost our way of life and our culture. And guess what? The same thing happened back then under the same people. The same thing that happened to us right now in today's age is the same thing that happened in the New Testament. You know what I mean? It's the same exact thing that happened. and the brothers forgot who they was. But the Lord woke up certain brothers. The Lord woke up Christ. The Lord sent Christ. Christ had his 12 disciples, and he gave them the order to go not into the way of the Gentile, into the not to wake up Israelites. Where's that at again? I think that's in Matthew's. Matthew's what? 15:24. Let me see. Or is it Matthew's 10? I think it's 18 and 24. Salakia. Okay, let me look it up right quick. You know what I mean? But Christ had told his disciples, he said, go not into the way of the Gentile. So why would he change that? Where is it at? Oh, Matthew 10 and 5. What? I was just there. I ain't see it. Oh, yeah, it is Matthew 10 and 5. Yeah. Matthew chapter 10, verse 5. And these 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. But see, Christ said, don't go to the Gentiles. Who are the Gentiles? Anybody that's not a Israelite in this context. It's next talking about don't go to the Gentiles, it said, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. You see that? It said, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And who was the lost sheep? The lost sheep of the house of Israel was Israelites that did not know they were Israelites. They thought they were Greeks. They was practicing the culture of the Greeks. It's the same thing that we doing in America today. You know what I'm saying? They said we going to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. What makes them lost? They lost because they don't know their culture. They don't know their identity. They don't know what God to serve. You know what I mean? They don't know any of these. They don't know they're the people of the Bible. So we go to them and we tell them the truth in hopes of waking them up so they can stop living like a Gentile, so they can get the promises and of what Christ said and what the Lord promised us. You know what I mean? All right. So yeah, when you see neither Jew or Greek is talking about the Jews that were Hellenized, that was colonized. That's what it's talking about. So let's go to Acts 16 and 1, because it was certain Jews in the Bible, or certain Israelites that were called Gentiles. Acts 16 and 1. Okay, we to one time. All right. Acts chapter 16, verse 1. Then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there, named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek. So what is this talking about? You know what I'm saying? It mentioned a brother named Timotheus. Timothy. It's talking about Timothy. You know what I'm saying? It said his mom was a Jewess and believed, which his mom was a Jew. She came from the tribe of Judah, or probably Benjamin or Levi. And it said, but his father was a Greek. What is that talking about? I just gave you the definition of what Greek mean. Greek mean a Jew that was Hellenized. It's not saying that his father was an actual Greek, but it's saying that he practiced the culture of the Greeks, walking around half naked, shaving his beard off, eating pork. You know what I mean? That was the culture of the Greeks, and he practiced that. But it said his mom was a Jew and a believer, meaning what? She followed Christ. She knew who she was. She knew she was an Israelite from birth. You know what I mean? She kept the Passover, kept the high holy days, covered her head up, and she did everything she was supposed to do. But her husband was a Greek. He didn't do any of those things. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep reading. So like I said, you gotta understand this is the Israelites called Greek. And it said, verse 2, which was well reported of by the brethren that were at Lystra and Iconium. Him would Paul have to go forth with him, and took and circumcised him because of the Jews which were in those quarters, for they knew all that his father was a Greek. So what he had to circumcise brother, because the Jews knew that he was a Greek because of him not being circumcised, or him following having a father that taught him Greek customs. You know what I mean? Let me see. Yeah, so that was the Israelite called Greek right there. Let's keep reading. And as they went through the cities, they delivered them the decrees for to keep that were ordained of the apostles and the elders which were at Jerusalem, and so were the churches established in the faith and increasing number daily. All right, but that's just the account of it was Israelites that were called Greek in the Bible. Because who's the Greeks? The Greeks wasn't Alexander the Great, his family, and all those people, but it was also Israelites who was practicing Greek culture. You understand? Let's get Ephesians. Let's get Ephesians. Uh, let's get Ephesians chapter 1, I believe. Ephesians chapter 1. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 1. Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ, by the will of God, to the saints which are at Ephesians, and to the faithful in Jesus Christ. So Timotheus, they was in where? They was in Ephesians, right? No, I mean it's like they was in. Let me see. Let's go back to Acts right quick. Acts 16. Because y'all think just because the land that they're in, that they are the people of the land. Just like right now, you stay in America, but you're not really American. You know what I mean? You got brothers that stay in Egypt, but they're not really Egypt. You got brothers that stay in Europe and England and Britain, Sicily, but they're not those people. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm tripping. Yeah, this definitely want to talk about him. All right, so let's go back to Ephesians, verse 1. Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ, by the will of God, to the saints which are at Ephesians, and to the faithful in Jesus Christ. So this is a letter that Paul wrote to the church that was at Ephesians. To who? To the saints, not to all people. You know what I mean? And it's a federal crime for you to open up somebody. Like right now in America, it's a federal crime for you to open up somebody's mail or go to somebody's mailbox, take their mail out the box and leave with it, and go home later and open it. You know what I'm saying? That is a federal crime. You'll go to jail for many years for doing that. And guess what? Also, is a crime. It's a crime for anybody that's not Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indian to pick up this book and try to make it about everybody and for everybody. That's a crime too. You know what I mean? Because what did it say? Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ by the will of God, to the saints which are at Ephesians. So now what we have to do, we got to figure out who the saints are. I'm saying Psalms. Let's go to Psalms. Let's figure out who the saints is. Psalm 148:14. Let's figure out who the saints are. to the saints that's at Ephesians. Psalms 148, verse 14. He also exalteth the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel. So who are the saints? The children of Israel, a people near to him. Praise ye the Lord. That's who the saints is. The saints are the Israelites. The saints are not is not everybody. You know what I mean? Let me see if I can get that somewhere else. I think it's in Exodus 18:1. Let me see. Everybody is not a saint. Yeah, that was it on that. You know what I mean? Let me read that again though. He also exalteth the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even the children of Israel, a people near unto him. So not only are the children of Israel his people, but the children of Israel are also the saints. And you can like I said, you can get his people in Exodus 18:1. Everybody is not the Lord people. Uh, Exodus 18:1. When Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard of all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people. You see that? Israel is the Lord's people. You know what I mean? Israel is the saints according to the Bible as well. And I think it's also in Daniel's. Was it Daniel 7 and 18? Well, I believe it's in Daniel 7 and 4, something like that. Let me just try to get that right quick. Oh, hold on. We supposed to be going. We supposed to be going. All right. They sleep. Daniel's 7 and was it 18 for the Saints? I said yep, Daniel 7:18. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever. Oh yeah, okay, that's another precept. But but we already just proved who the saints was, so we don't even got to pull that one again. So let's go back to Ephesians chapter 2. And like I said, man, I'm just jumping around trying to just disprove what the Christians, what we learned in the Christian church. You know what I mean? Ephesians chapter 2, verse 11. And it said, wherefore remember that ye being in the past time, in the time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcised by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands. Right, because in the past time, before we came to the truth, we was considered uncircumcised. You know what I mean? We was considered uncircumcised. But guess what? Now now that you know the truth, not only is it, I mean, you ain't got to get physically circumcised if you know what I mean. It's not about you being physically circumcised anymore, which you should circumcise your children. It's a law, but now you have to circumcise something else. You know what I'm saying that it's time for you to circumcise something else, especially now since you were in time past considered a Gentile. You see, I think it's in Jeremiah. This is what we have to do now. I mean, it's circumcise yourselves to the Lord and take away the foreskin of your heart, ye men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my fury come forth like fire and burn the non and quench it before the evil of your doings. So now you got to circumcise your heart foreskins of your mind. That's what you gotta circumcise. Now you gotta circumcise all that evil stuff that you want to do in your mind. You gotta snip it off. You gotta cut it off. You know what I mean? You gotta circumcise your mind now. You gotta cut wanting to be a Christian off. You gotta cut wanting to celebrate holidays when they can roll around. You gotta cut it off. You gotta cut off wanting to be around people that smoke drugs and do drugs. You gotta cut it off. You gotta cut off wanting to eat shrimp, crab, and lobster. You gotta cut it off. That's what it means by circumcise your mind. You understand? And I got plenty more precepts, but we about to say this for another time. I ain't gonna lie. All right, so man, yeah, make sure y'all like, share the class, subscribe to HBK Sacramento. Go tap in with that new song I just dropped on on my YouTube page, Not the Zob. You understand? DEFCON 4, Kosher Deals this. You know what I'm saying? Make sure y'all support that. Go run that up so we can get this truth out here. We should be having camp this weekend in Oakland, Lord allow. And support this truth. Yahweh Shabbat all the brothers. Yahweh Shabbat Shem shout out sisters. Shalom. Tune in with us too. We finna go live again in about 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying? On the same channel, dropping jewels. Me and Krayala.